York Knicks news, boys. The Knicks want these two players in free agency. So, two new players got added to the list of players that the Knicks are looking at in free agency. We already know they're looking at Lonzo Ball as one of those players. They have to worry about Mitchell Robinson, whether they want to extend him or not. They got Nerlens Noel that they could re-sign. Derrick Rose is an option as well. But two new players got added to the list of players that the Knicks are looking at in free agency. So how do I know this, boys? It got reported by Ian Begley of SNY that the Knicks will be looking at Dennis Schroder in free agency after he turned down a 4-year, $80 million extension from the Lakers, boys. This is news that came out recently over the past couple of days. So the Knicks will be looking at Dennis Schroder after he turned down that extension from the Lakers. We're going to get into what that means for the Knicks. Also from New York Post, Mark Berman from the New York Post reported that the Knicks have Jalen Brunson from the Dallas Mavericks on their radar as well. I could get into a conspiracy theory about how I think the Knicks are trying to sabotage the Dallas Mavericks low-key, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm sure some of you guys can kind of think about where I'm going with that, but that's a whole nother video. So, who are these players, first of all? Jalen Brunson and Dennis Schroder, they're both point guards that can help a team win. They can help a team win in the playoffs. They can contribute to winning if they're in the right situation, boys. These players aren't exactly the type of players that you would want to be your main number one scoring options or anything like that, but they can contribute to a winning formula. So that's who they are. What does that mean? What does this news mean for the Knicks, boys? Well, what it means to me is that the Knicks are looking at other point guard solutions in this offseason, in this free agency, outside of Lonzo Ball. We all know that the Knicks have been linked to Lonzo Ball for a long time. Lonzo said publicly that he would love to go to New York this free agency. The Knicks have been linked to him. The Chicago Bulls have been linked to him. The Nuggets, Mavericks, a bunch of teams have been linked to him. But he's publicly said that he would love to be a Knick. So that's the thing that differentiates the Knicks with these other teams. But they're looking at other options outside of Lonzo Ball. And I understand why that is. Lonzo Ball, he is a good option, but other teams are going to want him. So you have to keep your options available, options open. So Brunson, in my opinion, is a better option for the Knicks than Dennis Schroder. It's for a couple of reasons, boys. If you take on a guy like Dennis Schroder, as I just said, he turned down a 4-year, $80 million extension from the Lakers. So that tells us that he's looking for more money than that. Otherwise, he would have accepted that deal. So he's looking for more money than 4 years, $80 million. That breaks down into $20 million per year. I don't think it makes sense for the Knicks to pay $20 million per year for a guy like Dennis Schroder, especially because Dennis Schroder is the type of guy, he's going to come into the team. He's not necessarily trying to play a role. He's trying to run the offense. Dennis Schroder thinks he's that type of player. By all means, you have every right to feel that way. I disagree. I think most NBA fans would agree that if you have Dennis Schroder running your offense, you're only going to get so far in terms of playoffs or even success as a team. So I don't think Dennis Schroder is that type of guy. He's not a number one option. He should be a contributing piece, but he wants to be the number one option. That's why I think of guys like Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson would be a much better option of these two players because Jalen Brunson, there's so many good things I could say about Jalen Brunson. He's playing the best basketball of his career this season with the Mavericks. And not only is Jalen Brunson playing great basketball, he'd be willing to play a role with the Knicks. He's the type of guy, he doesn't need to be the main guy. He'd be willing to play a role. He's younger than Dennis Schroder, and he's cheaper than Dennis Schroder. So he'd be willing to play a role, which is what the Knicks need. They just need complementary pieces to support the young core that they already have. So Jalen Brunson comes in, he's willing to play a role. He'll be cheaper than a guy like Dennis Schroder. You could sign a guy like Jalen Brunson for a contract depending how many years you want to keep him. If you want 4 years or 2 years, I think signing a guy like Jalen Brunson could cost you like $12 million to $10 million for a guy that's going to be consistent every single night, give you great production off the bench if you want to bring him off the bench. I wouldn't recommend starting him unless you had a guy that's really going to facilitate the offense alongside him startings, but off the bench, Jalen Brunson is a great option. Now, and a couple fun facts about Jalen Brunson, boys. We all know his dad used to play for the Knicks, Rick Brunson. If you're an old head, you know about Rick Brunson. He used to play for the Knicks. And Rick Brunson and Leon Rose are actually best friends. So Jalen Brunson's dad is actually best friends with Leon Rose, who's the president of operations for the Knicks. So they have close ties already, Jalen Brunson and Leon Rose. Leon Rose used to be Jalen Brunson's agent. So before Leon Rose left CAA to become the president of the Knicks, he used to be Jalen Brunson's agent. So they have that connection, and I think it just makes more sense. There's more synergy for the Knicks to bring in Jalen Brunson, boys. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. These two new players that the Knicks have on their radar for free agency. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the channel. We have new videos every week. Shout out to that girl walking by. All right, peace, boys.